Right now, in 9 US states, more than 1,900 people have gotten sick. The source everyone's pointing to: shredded lettuce on a $2 taco. This isn't a rumor. It's an active outbreak the CDC and FDA are investigating right now in the summer of 2026. And the deeper you look into it, the stranger the story gets. Because this exact thing keeps happening to the exact same company. And the actual villain here is a parasite that didn't even have a scientific name until 1994. Let's start with what's actually confirmed. Health officials traced a cluster of illnesses to Taco Bell locations in Indiana, Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and West Virginia. The common thread investigators found: shredded iceberg lettuce, all supplied by one company, Taylor Farms de Mexico. On July 17th, that company voluntarily recalled every batch of iceberg lettuce sourced from central Mexico. As of this recording, the case count has climbed past 1,900 confirmed illnesses, with 98 people hospitalized. No deaths have been reported, and cyclosporiasis, that's the illness, has actually turned up in 41 states this year, with Michigan hit hardest. Here's the part that should stop you. This is not Taylor Farms' first outbreak. In 2013, the same company was linked to a Cyclospora outbreak in bagged salad mix. In 2024, it was an E. coli outbreak tied to onions served at McDonald's. Now, 2026, Cyclospora again. Same name, 3 separate outbreaks, 3 separate years. So what is this thing that keeps getting through? It's called Cyclospora cayetanensis, and its own history is almost as strange as the outbreak. Doctors had actually been seeing this illness in patients for decades before anyone knew what it was. In 1979, a researcher in Papua New Guinea found a mystery organism in stool samples and had no idea how to classify it. A decade later, doctors in Peru found what looked like the same thing in patients with chronic diarrhea and just called it cryptosporidium-like because it resembled a different, already known parasite. For years, scientists literally didn't have a name for it. In the research papers, it just got called the cyanobacterium-like body because under a microscope, that's the closest thing anyone could compare it to. It wasn't until a team led by a researcher named Ortega, working with Cayetano Heredia University in Lima, finally got the organism to sporulate in a lab, revealing its inner structure, that they could actually classify it. And only in 1994 did it get its official name. The parasite sitting in that lettuce right now is younger, scientifically speaking, than some of the people watching this video. So why does it keep slipping past everyone? Part of the answer is lettuce itself. You can't cook a salad. Heat kills almost every foodborne pathogen, but leafy greens are eaten raw, which means there's no final safety step. And the leaves themselves work against you. Their surface is porous and ridged, built to hold onto water in nature, which also means it's extremely good at holding on to contamination. Washing doesn't reliably fix this either. If the wash water itself picks up contamination from one bad batch, it can spread it to everything else moving through the same line instead of cleaning it off. And modern supply chains make one bad field a national problem. A single farm in central Mexico can end up in restaurants across dozens of US states within days. This isn't the first time leafy greens forced the country to reckon with this. In 2006, bagged spinach from a single California farm caused an E. coli outbreak that hospitalized over 100 people and killed 3. It was one of the most consequential food safety failures in modern US history. Serious enough that it helped push Congress to eventually pass the Food Safety Modernization Act in 2011, the biggest rewrite of America's food safety laws since 1938. An entire regulatory system got built specifically to stop exactly this kind of outbreak from happening again. And it's still happening. In fact, this current investigation shows exactly how hard it still is, even with everything we've learned. At one point, a lab sample from Taylor Farms actually tested positive for the parasite, which looked like the smoking gun investigators needed. Then the FDA reviewed that result again and retracted it. A false positive. The agency says its case against the lettuce still stands, based on the pattern of who got sick and what they ate. But as of the most recent update, the exact source hasn't been confirmed in a lab. Even now, with a named parasite, a federal agency, and decades of regulation behind them, investigators are still doing detective work with incomplete evidence, just like they were in 1979. So the next time you grab lettuce without thinking twice about it, remember, the thing capable of making you sick has had a scientific name for barely 30 years. We built entire laws around catching it, and in 2026, it's still finding a way through. If you want more stories where something small and everyday turns out to have a genuinely wild history behind it, that's what this channel does every week. Hit subscribe and I'll see you in the next one.